Okay. Welcome to State of the OCaml Platform 2023. This talk is about developer experience with the OCaml Platform. And specifically, I'll be talking about the progress that we've made in the past few years on improving the development experience and the work that we've been doing on establishing a roadmap for the next 3 years. Before I dive into all of that, I just wanted to have a quick survey of the room. Who here is familiar with the OCaml platform? Who knows what the OCaml platform is? Okay, maybe half of the room. So I'll start with. Oh, I need to switch that. Brief introduction of what the platform is, and sorry, the writing is a bit small, but I'll explain. The OCaml platform is the recommended set of tools to work with OCaml. So it's composed of, for instance, Dune, the build system for OCaml, opam, the OCaml package manager, ODoc that you would use to generate your documentation, OCaml format to format your code, all of the tools that support the development workflow, the different development workflows that you would need when working with OCaml. One thing that you can notice in the table is that the tools are classified by level of maturity. So you have the active stage that contains the workhorse tools that are recommended to be used daily to users, and these have strong backward compatibility and stability guarantees. Before tools can reach the active stage, they first go through the incubate stage. So the incubate stage contains tools that fill a gap in the OCaml development experience, but are not quite ready to be adopted widely. After the active stage, you have the sustain stage that contains tools that are unlikely to see any major development, but are still recommended, can still be used reliably. And finally, when a tool reaches the end of its life, it ends up in the deprecate stage, where as part of that migration, we make sure that users have a clear alternative in the platform, either in the active stage or the sustain stage. Two years ago, at the ICFP, actually, we're celebrating 25 years of OCaml. And today, I'm really happy to celebrate 10 years of the OCaml platform. So the first release of opam 1.0, was in March 2013. So I've put a small timeline of the different milestones that we've reached in the past 10 years. These contain the major releases of the currently active tools. Cursor is really slow. Sorry about that. And since its inception in 2013, it's been customary every couple of years to reflect back on the progress that has been made on OCaml development experience, and at this occasion to update the roadmap that we have and the direction that we have for OCaml tooling. So to continue on this tradition, let's dive into what we've been doing in the past few years. I need to switch again. I'll get used to it. All right. In 2020, the direction that we set for the OCaml platform was to build a seamless editor integration. What we envisioned in 2020 is that users, OCaml developers, should be able to start their editors and be instantly productive with OCaml, not having to configure their environment for dozens of minutes, and having all of the development workflows available in the platform, available directly from the editor. So while there's still some work to be done to completely achieve this goal, we've made a lot of progress in the past 3 years on the OCaml editor experience. So just a couple of milestones that I'll be highlighting. The OCaml LSP server implementation was first released in 2020. They are inverted. Shortly before that, we saw the release of the VS Code extension. We also saw the first major release, I think, in 5 or 6 years of Merlin, which came with precise jump to definition. That was an important milestone. And we also saw the release of Dune 3.0 that came with Dune RPC, which is now used by OCaml ASP and the VS Code extension to provide OCaml-specific integration. So with all the progress that we've been making on the editor experience in the past few years, it's time to step back and update the roadmap and the direction that we have for OCaml development experience. Where do we go from there? In the past 8 months or so, we've been working on updating the roadmap. And as part of this work, we've been interviewing industry users. We've been conducting user research with individual developers. We've been reviewing dozens and dozens of discussed posts that are commenting on the state of OCaml development. We've been reviewing the OCaml surveys of the past 2 or 3 years, and we compiled all of the results. One takeaway that we have from all of this data analysis, let's call, is that there's no one single workflow that we should be focusing on. There's nothing that stood out as, oh, this is completely missing, and this makes the development experience subpar. Instead, what we found is that mostly all the building blocks for OCaml development experience are there, but there are friction in every step of the way. There are friction in every workflows that are supported. And so we identified 3 main areas of focus for the next 3 years to try and solve that situation. The first one is putting Dune as the front end of the platform. The platform, you saw that in this slide, is composed of tools that are mostly independent, that work well independently. But in 2023, it's pretty clear that users expect to have a single tool to interact with. Luckily, that's something that we're almost there, because Dune integrates with ODoc. It integrates with OCaml format and MDX. It already integrates with most of the platform tools. But there's 2 missing integration, notable missing integration, and these are for package management with OPAM and for package publication. There's 2 tools in the platform that do that currently, and they are OPAM publish and Dune release. So the focus, one of the focus for the next 3 years is going to complete all of these integration by integrating OPAM and either OPAM publish or Dune release into Dune. The second area of focus, I was mentioning that mostly all of the building blocks are here to get a complete user development experience, but that's not quite true. There's still gaps in the OCaml platform that we need to fill. So for instance, one of the frequent requests that we have is linter. We don't have a linter in OCaml at the moment. Another request that we saw is benchmarking. How do you benchmark your OCaml projects? And most users develop their own solutions, and there's been work on. There's tons of tools in the ecosystem to fill these gaps, but they are not integrated in the platform, and most users wouldn't know how to use them or that they even exist. So one of the focus of the next few years is going to identify all of these gaps and incubate new tools in the platform and integrate them in the editor experience and in Dune, so that we finally have this complete development experience. And finally, the last area of focus, I was talking about the friction points at every step of the way. And one thing that we'll have to do is identify all of these, identify the most important friction points, and improve the tools so that we make the experience seamless. I'm putting a map of all the development workflows that we've been working on. They contain the development workflows that we either intend to, for which we intend to incubate new tools, or that we intend to integrate in Dune, or that we intend to improve in one way or another. I won't have time to cover all of this, but they are all in the OCaml Platform document that is available on GitHub. I'll put the link at the end of the presentation. What I want to do is, for each of the areas of focus that I just talked about, highlight just a couple of workflows that we'll be working on. So starting with Dune as the front end of the platform. There's two consequences that are very exciting to me. I hope you'll get excited about them also. One is the get started experience. So compare, I've put a typical set of commands that you would run to go from a clean environment to running, building a project. And that includes installing opam from your system package manager or from the installation script. You would then have to init opam, go on your project and create a switch. Then you would install the dependencies of your project. You would source the opam environment. And finally, you're able to build your project using Dune. Compare that to Dune, with the experience that you should expect with Dune being able to manage packages. The only requirement that you have to build a project is to have Dune on your system. So you apt install Dune, or you would winget install Dune on Windows, and you can go on your project and run Dune build. Having worked with outreachy interns and other people who get started with OCaml without any prior knowledge, I can't emphasize enough how big of a change this will be on the get started experience and the barriers to adoption that this is going to remove. The second thing that I'm pretty excited about is the fully integrated editor's experience. Sorry. So remember in 2020 when we were saying, well, the goal is to have an experience in the editor where you are instantly productive and everything is available from the editor. Well, Dune as a front end of the platform allows that. Because say you're working on VS Code or any other editor at the moment and you want to update a dependency. What would you do? You would leave the editor, you would go on your console, kill the Dune build that is currently running. You would run a bunch of opam commands to install dependencies. You would then run Dune build again, go back to your editor, probably update the Dune project to reflect the changes that you've been making. And from there, you can continue working on your project. This is quite an interruption. Like you need to switch context and run commands manually. Compare that to Dune being able to manage dependencies. What you would do instead is you're on your editor, you open Dune project, you update the dependency, you save the file, and Dune in the background picks up the change in your file and updates your dependency and rebuilds your project automatically. So Dune as a front end of the platform gets us one step closer to this fully integrated editor experience where you never have to leave your editor. I want to highlight two of the new development workflows, so the gaps that we need to fill in the existing tools. The first one I already mentioned is linter. And one thing that I want to highlight is that incubating new tools in the platform, we should also think of the integration with the editor, right? Like we're doing all of this work to integrate the existing platform tools, but the ones that we incubate from now on should also have that in mind. And so the experience that you should expect from the linter is you go on your project on Emacs or VS Code, and this is fully integrated with Dune RPC and the LSP, and you receive errors like, hey, this piece of code, this public function is not used anywhere in your project. You should probably remove it. Or, hey, this function is not compatible with Windows, but you activated the linting rule that says that you don't want to depend on any non-Windows, how would you say that? Any function that is not compatible with Windows. So that's for the linting. Another thing that I'm very excited about is generating installers for OCaml. So one thing that is lacking at the moment is when you want to ship applications to end users, there's no good answer to that at the moment. People people do that manually, just like they do benchmarking manually, and that's a pain point. And well, actually, I'll just mention that that's a problem that has been being worked on at the moment, and Jonah has been working on DKML install to solve that exact problem. And so one thing that we should look into in the coming years is to incubate that kind of tooling in the OCaml platform so that from your Dune project, you would be able to generate that installer and easily ship your applications to users. All right. And finally, on the development workflows that we ought to mature, or the friction points that we want to remove on the existing development experience, I'll highlight two of them. One that is perhaps one of the most important development workflow to focus on, the documentation generation. Looking at the data that we have, especially on the OCaml survey, the lack of access to high-quality documentation for OCaml packages is at the top of the pain points that users report. Right? And the OCaml org team has been working on that problem, to solve that problem, and they have launched centralized package documentation as part of the latest release of OCaml org. So this is solving the accessibility problem. You can go on OCaml org and read the documentation of any OCaml package, but it's not solving the problem that there's not enough documentation and not enough high-quality documentation. So one thing that we're hoping to do is to, in the coming years, improve the tooling in such a way that we create more incentives for package authors to write documentation. Improve the tooling and the quality of the documentation so that when you generate your documentation locally, you're actually proud and you're rewarded for having generated that documentation. So features that are on the roadmap for that include search in the documentation. So you would have a search bar in your documentation. You're able to search types and functions. Another thing is global navigation. At the moment, ODoc is great to create API documentation, but it's not great to create manuals. Having a manual global navigation where you can go through the APIs, but also the pages, the manual pages that you've written, would allow ODoc to be used for that. Another thing is that I'm very excited about is interactive code blocks to be able to essentially generate what would be notebooks. So you generate your documentation and your users read the documentation and are able to interact with the code blocks in your documentation. And finally, another workflow that we'll be looking into is running tests. There's good support for running tests in Dune. You have a specific test stanza and a specific Dune test command. But there's limitations, like one common feature request that we get is, how do you run a single test? Let's say you have your test suite with alco test and it's contained within a single binary. How do you run a single test in that test suite? And that's not supported by Dune at the moment. Another thing is the lack of integration in the editor. If you look at other ecosystems, for example, Python, you would have a text explorer in your VS Code extension, or you would have code actions where you could run directly from your editor the test. And that's not something that we currently have in OCaml. So another thing that we'll be looking into. Right, that concludes the talk. I just want to make a few concluding notes. And the first one is that I only highlighted a handful of workflows that are part of the roadmap. The roadmap contains, if I remember correctly, 20 different workflows. So if you want a complete picture of everything that we'll be looking into in the coming years, I really invite you to have a look at the roadmap on GitHub. Second note, the roadmap is a living document, right? Like once it's adopted, it will surely be updated along the way. But it's currently at its final review stage. So now is a very, very good time to give feedback on the roadmap so that we can incorporate that feedback before we adopt the initial version. There is actually a Discuss post that you can, where you can join the discussion and share your feedback. So I'm putting the link right there. And third and final concluding note, you probably got a sense hopefully you got a sense with that talk of the amount of effort that will be needed to achieve all of that. There's fairly large team with the platform maintainers who are working really hard on this, but all the platform maintainers, all the platform projects are actively looking for maintainers. So if you're excited by any of that and interested in contributing, please do reach out to the platform maintainers, or if you're not sure how to go about it, feel free to reach out to me directly, and so we can discuss how you can contribute to that. Thank you.
I have a question. So there's some kind of trend I observe towards kind of centralization of the platform. Are you thinking about preserving the diversity? For example, should some people still be able to use it using Bug2 or alternative build platform or alternative test runner, or if you end up like it's platform way or no way?
That's a really good question. Actually, there was one question, one comment from the Discuss post that is linked here. So the platform roadmap is divided into 3 parts. We just published the last part, that is the actual development workflows that we want to work on. But the first 2 parts were the personas, the users that we want to target with the platform, and the design principles. And as a follow-up of the discussion that we had, that was your exact question, we added a principle of the platform that we should aim as much as possible to support workflows or tooling that is not part of the platform. So that's certainly one principle that we have in mind.
Thank you. So, well, this is the time for the post, so we can ask other questions during the post.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.